Hi, friends. This is your pal, Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about apologies, and we're going to talk about me meeting DM Bloodsworth from Unchained and Unscripted RPG reviews in person at the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo 2, which happened in January 2025 in Oaks, Pennsylvania. All right, so I went, and I will say, I was a little alarmed, right? Because all my peers were going to be there, right? And the reality is, I have a completely unique opinion on Dungeons and Dragons. I don't believe it's a game. No one else has ever joined me in this opinion, right? I believe that Gary Gygax built Dungeons and Dragons as a human improvement engine and specifically hid it as a game because he knew that couch scribblers and self-help authors were not going to save the world, but that he could, right? So and literally no one else in the world believes this. I'm the only person, right? However, one thing that, reason why I keep my channel up and why I keep saying this is increasingly there are more and more people who are seeing evidence of what I'm seeing. And I'm not the only channel anymore that's saying Dungeons and Dragons is not a game. There's another channel that says the same thing, different reasons, different takes, but I'm not the only person saying that Dungeons and Dragons isn't a game anymore. And with like Elon Musk taking time out of talking to President Donald Trump to talk about buying Dungeons and Dragons, increasingly people are like, wait a second, Scott was talking about this a while ago, like that, and Elon Musk ain't talking about Candyland. Maybe Scott's right, so the point is, I didn't know how people would respond to me, and also I do videos that say, hey, this person on the internet is wrong about Dungeons and Dragons. I do it all the time, right? And the people I've done it to are going to be there in person, right? So I didn't know how this was going to go, right? So it went great, by the way. I was extremely well received. People treated me as peers, and I'm very blessed. It was a fantastic con. My fears were unwarranted. And DM's Bloodworth was part of that. So I'm there, and the Nerdarchy guys are like, hey, DM's Bloodworth is looking for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, that'll be interesting. And I was like, the reason why I was like, that is interesting is DM's Bloodworth came on my channel, and for about a year, I think he wrote, I'm not kidding, he wrote a novella on my content, right? He would go in and he would put in a paragraph, 3 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs, like literally 250, 750 words, pages of content. And that's great, but the problem was always negative. It was always like, hey, I disagree with you. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And we got to the point where it was a brawl. It was a verbal brawl every day in the comments, right? And so actually I went on Twitter. And if you ever want to talk to me directly, go follow me on Twitter and just direct message me. And that's how I talk to people direct, right? And I did that with Bloodwork. I'm like, dude, you gotta stop, right? Like, first of all, I was like, hey, you hate my stuff, go elsewhere. He didn't do that, right? Then I was like, hey, there's some name calling at this point. This is getting really aggressive. I'm not comfortable with this. Could you, and then I was like, you need to salt in some good stuff. You can't just come and complain on my content all the time with animosity and name calling. You can't do that, right? I'm gonna block you. Now, that's not the right term. Actually, YouTube uses the better language. I'm gonna hide you from the channel. And I think back then it might have been block, right? This is like 2-3 years ago. I was like, dude, if you don't say a single nice thing and it's just name calling and animosity every single day, I'm gonna hide you from the channel, right? And that's exactly what I did. And that was like 2 years ago, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to listen to DM Bloodworth, animosity and name calling in person. And that was not the case, right? So he came right up to me and he said, Scott, it's good to see you. I'm so sorry about what happened, and I'm sorry that there was so much animosity, that I created a space of animosity, right? And I was like, oh, thank you. You are forgiven, and I'm very glad that you've come to Philadelphia. And I have to say, it is amazing how powerful a genuine apology is, right? Because there was a lot of name calling, there was a lot of animosity, right? But he was very genuine. It was a real apology. It was unmitigated and it was genuine. And I really appreciated it. And it turns out that in person, DM's Bluddworth is a great guy. And we had a great weekend. I talked to him multiple times throughout the weekend. He invited me into his Shadow Dark game. I was blessed to play in his Shadow Dark game. That was a 3-hour block with him. But I talked to him 3 or 4 times throughout the weekend. And it was a huge blessing having him there. And we were able to squash the beef, right? And I want to tell you, you should go over to Unchained and Unscripted. He's got a great channel, and he has a genuine love of Dungeons and Dragons. It's very different than mine, but from that weekend, I think he's a good guy. All is forgiven, and it took a lot to give a genuine, unmitigated apology. And I really appreciated it. And I wanted to share this tale with you guys. And the most important part is skip my next video. Go watch his, right? Like, he deserves it. So thank you for letting me share this adventure from Philadelphia area Gaming Expo 2, which happened in January 2025 in Oaks, PA. And every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like subscribing and have a fetch millennium.